We've seen plenty of movies, books and documentaries on serial killers, but not so many on those who are so efficient and deadly that they can murder dozens of people in a single day. Murder sprees seem to have become more prominent over time, notably the tragedy in Norway, which is as recent as July 2011. This evil act will no doubt happen again thousands of times in the future. What I have presented in this list is no more than a proverbial tip of the iceberg. Five. Ahmed Ibragimov. 34 dead, 20 injured, approx. Ahmed Ibragimov was a Chechen bus driver who killed 34 Russians in the village of Mykonskaya, in 1999. The motive for Ibragimov's rampage remains unknown and little information exists on the internet regarding the massacre. What is known is that, prior to the murders, Ibragimov had created a list of Russian targets, and had included information about where these individuals lived. He knew most of this information as he had previously worked as a postman. On October 8, he went from house to house tracking down and systematically killing the people listed. His method was to call the victim outside under false pretenses, before shooting them dead with a rifle. He even murdered the 10-year-old child of one of his victims. In the aftermath of the massacre, Ibragimov went on the run for 2 days before being captured by rebels and delivered to the families of his victims, who proceeded to beat him to death with iron rods and leave his body in the street. Four. Martin Bryant. 35 dead, 21 injured. In 1996, Martin Bryant had been described as an immature yet harmless man by his neighbors. He was loved by the local children, for whom he often bought expensive gifts. However, Bryant had become lonely, as he didn't work and lived off a $1.5 million inheritance. He had also told his psychiatrist that he wanted to go around shooting people. His loneliness culminated in Australia's deadliest spree killing in history, the Port Arthur Massacre. On April 28, 1996, Bryant walked into Port Arthur's Broad Arrow Cafe with a large black bag, and ordered a meal. He sat down and conversed with other patrons of the cafe and made comments that there were a lot of wasps around as it was a hot day. He then returned his empty tray and opened up his bag, which contained an AR-15 assault rifle with 30 rounds attached. The cafe was full of people and was remarkably small, with tables packed tightly together. Within 15 seconds, Bryant fired 13 shots at close range, killing 12 people instantly. Bryant chased down and killed another 8 people in the gift shop area of the site, before moving outside to the car park. Many coaches were parked in this area, with lines of people waiting outside them. When these people realized what was going on, they scattered, but Bryant managed to chase down and murder several more people, before changing his weapon to an FN FAL. Bryant hijacked a car at the toll booth area of the site, but not before shooting dead the driver and his 3 passengers. He then took a hostage in the boot of this car and drove down to a local B&B known as Seascape. When police arrived at Seascape, an 18-hour standoff ensued, during which Bryant communicated with police with a telephone. Bryant claimed he knew nothing about the previous massacre at Port Arthur and that everyone inside was in perfect health, even though it was later proved that Bryant had already shot dead the 2 owners of the B&B and his hostage, who was handcuffed to the banister. Eventually, Bryant deliberately set fire to Seascape for some unknown reason, and ran out with his clothes on fire, surrendering to police. After his arrest, Bryant was reportedly obsessed with knowing the number of people he had killed, and wanted to know if he had beaten Thomas Hamilton, who had perpetrated the Dunblane massacre just weeks beforehand. Bryant received a sentence of over 1,000 years of imprisonment, without parole, for the massacre, and is currently serving his time in the psychiatric wing of Risdon Prison, in Hobart, Australia. Recently, a police training video has been leaked on the internet that contains photographs of the victims after being shot and a clip that shows Martin Bryant running near the buses in the Port Arthur car park. The video also plays a recording of the phone call between Bryant and police during the standoff at Seascape, in which Bryant claims to have made a cup of tea for his hostage. Three. William Unek. 57 dead, 30 injured. The case involving William Unek is unique, in that Unek perpetrated not one, but two deadly massacres that occurred 3 years apart. Despite the incredibly large death count, both massacres received surprisingly little media coverage. What is known is that, in 1954, Unek worked as a police constable in the Belgian Congo. During this period he embarked on a brutal killing spree and murdered at least 21 people with an axe, while injuring many more. The motive for this massacre remains unknown. He then apparently escaped to Tanganyika, where he assumed a false identity and started his life over. Unek found work again, though it isn't clear what profession he chose, before repeating history and going on another murderous rampage on February 11, 1957. This time his chosen weapon was a stolen rifle. He stormed through a local village, invading people's homes and shooting anyone he found inside. At some point he torched a house and the blaze killed a further 3 people. He also hacked several people to death with the axe and strangled a young woman. During this massacre he managed to kill 36 villagers before fleeing. This time police sent out dogs and a helicopter to hunt Unek down, and eventually he was discovered at a house just 2 miles away from the scene of the massacre. The house owner conversed with Unek until police arrived, at which point Unek was fatally injured while trying to evade capture. Two. Bumpkin. 57 dead, 37 injured. Bumpkin is responsible for the deadliest shooting spree in South Korea's history. According to his relatives and close friends, before the massacre Wu was severely depressed and had anxiety issues, as well as an inferiority complex. Prior to the rampage in 1982, he had served in the military and worked as a police officer in the province of Gyeongsang-Namdo. His motive was apparently blind rage. On the night of the massacre Wu got into a fight with his girlfriend after she woke him up by swatting a fly on his chest. He assaulted her and wrecked his house in a tantrum before going out drinking. He then went to the police station and somehow managed to gather an arsenal of weapons without anyone noticing. This arsenal consisted of 2 rifles with hundreds of rounds of ammunition and 7 hand grenades. At around 9:30 p.m., Wu visited a local village, where he positioned himself behind some bushes and began firing upon passers-by with an M1 carbine. His girlfriend, who had gone out looking for him, happened to walk by at this moment and he shot her in the upper thigh, wounding but not killing her. Later that night Wu visited a local post office and shot 3 people dead, before cutting the phone lines of the entire village in order to prevent anyone from calling the emergency services. He then began to target houses at random, using his position as a police officer to trick people into letting him inside, before pulling out his rifle and murdering everyone. Using this method, Wu managed to kill a total of 42 people in 5 different villages. He broke the trend on numerous occasions. For example, one time he took a family hostage in their home and ordered a teenage boy living there to go and buy him a drink from the local grocery store. The boy complied, but when he returned, Wu simply killed him and all of his family. On another occasion, Wu was unable to gain entry to a house, so he used a grenade to kill everyone inside. The massacre lasted for 8 hours, culminating in Wu killing himself with 2 grenades in a suicide attack that claimed 4 lives. In the aftermath, many police officials involved in the manhunt for Wu resigned, as much blame was placed on them for not ending the rampage sooner. Police were very quick to be informed of the shootings but were sluggish in their attempts to track down the perpetrator. (1) Anders Behring Breivik. 77 dead, 96 injured. Sadly, the deadliest spree killing in history is also the most recent. Anders Behring Breivik is a right-wing extremist who murdered 69 teenagers aged 14-19, at the Norwegian island of Utøya. On July 22, 2011, before the shooting began, Breivik detonated a massive car bomb in Oslo which killed 8 people. He then boarded a ferry to the island of Utøya where 600 teenagers were attending a youth summer camp. Breivik wore a police uniform and used a forged police ID badge to pass through security without incident. He then approached the campers and falsely informed them that he was a police officer who had come to perform a routine check after the bombing in Oslo. He announced that everyone should gather around him while he did a head count, before pulling out a rifle and indiscriminately firing into the crowd. Survivors later described the horrors that occurred on the island, many of whom said that Breivik targeted individuals after the initial spray of bullets, and laughed as he murdered those who begged for their lives. Many people tried to play dead in order to survive, but Breivik came back and shot the bodies twice. Some campers desperately jumped into the water and attempted to swim to shore, but many drowned and only a few were able to be rescued by boaters who came to help. Breivik also shot many people in the water, causing otherwise non-fatal injuries that incapacitated victims and caused them to drown. Some of the teenagers hid in underground lavatories and used cell phones to communicate with each other via text messages. After 90 minutes of carnage, police arrived, and Breivik surrendered peacefully. The massacre had been planned by Breivik since 2009, at the very least. He created a diary of the planning process that he allegedly shared with terrorist organizations over the internet. The diary shows that his motive was to use the influence of the attacks to start an uprising against the Norwegian government. The diary also reveals that he made an unsuccessful attempt to purchase firearms in Prague in 2009, and that he founded a farming company called Breivik Farm, as a cover for his bomb-making experiments. Breivik has been observed to be completely sane by court psychiatrists, but he is described as having strong narcissistic tendencies in his personality. He hasn't received a prison sentence yet, though it is certain that he will live the rest of his life behind bars.